going to download Snap Lens Studio if you haven't already. You should be able to find it just by putting it in your Google search bar. And when it's a free application, and when you download it, go ahead and skip the tutorial for now. And let's just start by looking at some of the templates, which is just as good as the tutorial. Let's just look at some of the face templates. So go to File, New Project, from Template, Face, and Baseball Cap. This is like the classic Snapchat, put a hat on somebody, right? And you can, over here on the preview, on the right-hand side, there's a little webcam mode. If you click on that, it should bring up a preview of what it'll look like on your phone. Yay! It works, right? So you can change this. Well, this is controlled through a script. So we'll look at how you can do this without a script. But basically, what it's doing here is it does 3D estimation of the pose of your head. So when we're doing AR application, our phone sees the floor and knows what a plane looks like, and then does a pose estimation of the floor. And that's how it infers the camera position. In Snapchat, it does it kind of the other way around. It's looking at your face and knows what what faces look like, and can infer the pose of your head and face based on what it sees. It can tell where your eyes are. It can tell where the edges of your mouth are, where your nose is, where your eyebrows are, and can create a three-dimensional map of these things and use it to place virtual elements. So this is just a silly hat. You can also go ahead and open a new project from Template, Face, Distort. This is when it's going to get really silly. Don't save. So this is just taking that mesh that it has detected on your face and enlarging certain parts of it, and changing the shape of things, and also doing what's called an inset on your mouth. So it detects where your mouth is and then creates this inset of your mouth that you can place wherever. Like I can turn this into nightmare fuel and copy and paste this face inset. I can say duplicate actually over here, and now I have two mouths, and I can put them here instead of my eyes. Ah ha ha ha! So over here on the left-hand side, you have kind of your hierarchy, just like in Unity. And over here, you can see face inset mouth. You can just duplicate that so you have two mouths. And now I could say, if I wanted to, I could say add new. Over here on objects, I could say add new, and scroll down. And you should be able to find face inset. And now I have a new one. And I'm going to put it on my mouth, but instead of it being a mouth, over here on face region, I can set that to like left eye. And now I can have an eye for a mouth and mouths for eyes. So there's some nightmare fuel there. This is also doing a thing called liquefy, which kind of makes makes your eyes really bulgy. You can turn anything off over here on the hierarchy. So if I turn that off, my mouth gets less distorted. Okay. So you can play around with that. Let's see what else is there. Face inset. So this is all. This does a face retouch, which is just a quick take away blemishes type of thing. So it like smooths over the skin tones of your face. God, that's really disturbing. All right, let's make a new from template. Let's see what else is in here. let's see, 2D, let's 3D. No, I don't want to do that. There's sunglasses, which again, just like the hat, it detects where your eyes are and can stick sunglasses on you.
Which trigger?
Go ahead and run it. Trigger is just, it triggers something when your mouth opens. So here's my Elton John sunglasses. Let me do one open from template 3D trigger, which is really similar to this one. It's just sunglasses, and it can tell when your mouth goes past a certain threshold of being open. At least I think it's mouth. Or maybe it's, I'm trying to figure out when it comes back. Open. Yeah, it's just timed, you're right, yeah. So this is trigger. We'll make our own custom one from scratch here in just a second. I just wanted to show you guys some of these templates first. So let's see, and you can use these, you know, they're templates. So you can swap out the assets in each of these to make them different. I could load a different model. So let's see, is there sunglasses? Yeah, so sunglasses here has this frame mesh, which I believe is, if you go down in meshes, no, where is it? Sunglasses, remove me, meshes. Yeah, there's all these different frames, and I believe they're .objs for the most part. And these are all just the little parts of the sunglasses. But you can upload your own OBJs. As long as it doesn't like DAEs, it doesn't like SketchUp. But if you have Vectorworks, which is free for students, you can import SketchUp or import a Collada file and export a .obj, or you can do it in Blender, or you can do it in a bunch of different programs. You should be it's not too hard to figure out how to export a different file format. And of course, 3D Studio and 3D Warehouse is one of the easiest places to get models online. And they're usually available in either SketchUp or Collada.dae files. Both of those, I believe, you can load into Vectorworks and then export as an OBJ. Any more templates I want to look at? Let's see. Let's do face paper head. This is a heavy scripted thing too, because it figures out a bunch of different things, like whether your mouth is open or not, whether your eyes are open or not, and changes the sprites based on that. So it also will change my nose based on whether my head is pointing toward the left or to the right. Right? So there's a bunch of scripting things going on in here, and Snap Lens is heavily scriptable. It uses all JavaScript, I believe, which is, if you look at a JavaScript, let's look at some of the scripts in this script in here. Paperhead controller. So over here on your resources, go to scripts, Paperhead controller. And you can click on Open External Editor, and is it going to open it? Do I have an external? There we go. So this whole stuff at the top is all commented out, but you'll see like there's a lot of things that are similar to C# in Java. So it uses these same kind of var variables. It has the same sort of void functions, but they just call them functions. So for the most part, you should, if you wanted to, you should be able to, and you're used to C#, you should be able to pick your way through this code and change it slightly or whatever. Cool. All right. Let's see. What time is it? 2:41. Is there any other template I want to look at? Let's see. Oh, Yes, go open project from template and go to tracking, no, marker, no. There we go, object, skeletal, don't save. This is a skeletal tracker. So it only does arms and shoulders. It doesn't do anything more than that. You have to be really far away from your camera. Is it not working? There we go. So you can see it'll actually, it's really bad. Just I'm further away. I'm so far away already. It might not like my costume either. There we go. Oh. So it'll actually do some simple skeletal tracking, but only with your arms and your head. So you can use this for some interesting stuff too. You can also use this to infer the position of your hands for like games where you're like gonna tap things. You know, like maybe there's things floating toward you in space and you have to like slot them with your hands or something like that, right? There's people you can make entire games in Snapchat, in SnapLens. Some of the games that they show you, like go to file, new project from template, interactive, simple high score. Some of these have nothing to do with AR. They're just games. Like this is, oh wait, no, maybe that's not the one I was thinking. New from template, interactive, countdown. No, high score. It should be like this chicken that's running. Yeah, rooster run. So this is just like a whole game, and it doesn't really like. How do I? There we go. You just you see your face in the background, but it really has nothing to do with the game, right? because you can run JavaScript in this, you can add whatever functions you want into the program that may not have been there. Like I saw a tutorial for this online where a guy added. There's no built-in system for raycast hit. Having an object on the ground and being able to throw something at it and detect when two objects collide, but you can add that code and it's not hard. He created basically AR Space Invaders, where the Space Invaders like slide toward you on the floor and you have to like tap and throw little missiles at them. Yeah, so this can actually do a lot of what AR Foundation can do, and it can do some things that AR Foundation can't do, as far as like face tracking without having the high-end Apple hardware. But you are always tied to Snapchat. So I would say like there's definitely bigger advantages for being able to write things in Unity and having more control over your application than just being tied to Snapchat and only being able to run on a Snapchat app, right? All right, so let's do something from scratch. So let's make a new project. All right, so we're going to start by doing some virtual face makeup. Basically, we're going to take an image of a face and kind of put it on your face, kind of like a face swap, basically. So the first thing we want to do, let's download this content from the class website, week 8. Yeah, go ahead, download the JSON mask. I'll do that one after we do the face painting stuff. But go ahead and especially download all these Joker face, Miguel, Coco face, Spook, Sully face, and Trump face. Download. I guess I should have just downloaded the whole directory. Can you do that? Okay, I've downloaded everything. All right, so go ahead and let's see, what do you have to do? First thing you want to do is over here in Objects, click on this plus Add New, and scroll down and find Face Mask. And when you do that, it should give you this default face mask, which is just like all these crazy colors, right? Add New right here, this plus Add New up in the Objects and Face Mask. And so by default, it gives you this stained glass window kind of face mask. What? Somebody that I used to know. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, let's go ahead and save this because when we start doing this, it does have a tendency to crash every once in a while. So let's go ahead and save this and call it, I don't know, whatever you want, week 8, Halloween. Okay, so this is the face mask is this 3D mesh that is these points correspond to points on your face. And if you go back to the view 3D scene, oh, never mind. Don't go back to 3D scene. View the 2D scene. There we go. This basically, it knows where the edges of your eye is, and so this point will affect where the texture underneath it is placed. If you go ahead and move it around, you can see what it's doing to that color underneath, right? So, and then this, what you see, this colors and stuff, this is part of this texture that's called default texture, right here. Default. If I click on this and texture and I choose Echo Park Spec, it'll change it from these colors to this weird Echo Park thing, right? So that's the first step is we need to put let's start with the Joker because he works the best. Let's go ahead and drag the Joker that you downloaded. Face mask. No, this is no template. We need to have a new file, and you need to add a face mask to it. Okay. Now drag Joker face into your resources down here. Okay. And then here on texture, where it says Echo, where we've changed it to Echo Park, or maybe it still says default, choose Joker face. So now it's close as far as like the eyebrows are right, but the mouth is too high. So what you need to do is, first of all, you need to resize all of these points to match the picture underneath. So you can drag a box. You can box select all of the points. That's the first step. Box select all the points and grab it by a corner to resize it, and just do a quick and dirty resizing first. Grab one corner, grab another corner, and try to get it to be the right size and the right position so that the Joker's eyes are, or so that the points of the eyes are over the Joker's eyes and the mouth of the Joker is over his mouth. Okay, I messed up these. And if you were playing around and have your points all scrambled and you can't figure them out, down here in the corner you can click on reset points and start over again. And so just doing this is already pretty good. Like I could tweak this for another 5 minutes and get it looking really good. Like the nose is a little bit low, so I can box select just the points for the nose here and drag those up, which will kind of deform the nose a little bit to match my nose, right? And it looks like his mouth is still a little bit low, so I'm going to try and drag that up a little bit. Ah, there we go. And now the other thing that's happening, you can see because this image is not as big as the face, so there's all these triangles up here that have no texture for them. And so you see it's just getting smeared up from there. We can fix that. Click on the other tab that says opacity, and we can just change this. The parts that are white are visible, and the parts that are black are invisible. So all of these points don't have good texture. So just drag them up so that it'll move the opacity down and get rid of it in your image. So I drag them up here. So now these points are invisible. And you can see on the preview that it just kind of fades those out. And you can do the same for the bottom because the chin gets kind of cut off. So just grab the chin points and drag those down. There we go. What is the new Joker's? I want to say why so serious, but that's the wrong Joker. What's the new? Does the new Joker doesn't have a catchphrase though, does he? Oh my God, it's a good movie. Yeah.
Nobody wants to see it, but I can see it.
It's really good. So yeah, when you have a human face, particularly one with the mouth closed, this works really well and really easily. You can load in other faces, like cartoon faces, and it's a lot more challenging to get things lined up. You also kind of want the face to be facing right at the camera. If their face is over to the side like this, it's harder to get it to look real. Let's try a different face. Miguel and Trump both work pretty well. The Sully face is not as well. Why don't you guys try either the Trump or Miguel? I'll go for the Sully because I got the Sully costume and I want to see what it looks like with my costume. So I'm going to drag Sully over here. I'm going to reset my points. This right here, reset points. Down in the, it's this little thing down at the bottom. I'm going to go back to texture and I'm going to change my texture. I'm going to reset these points. And I'm going to change my texture to Sully face. And now I got to, you want to grab all of the points first and do a rough scaling to try to fit them all on your face and to try to get the eyes and the mouth close. There we go. It's not perfect. I got some work to do, but it's pretty good. Whoops. Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah. Do you guys want to move on or do you want to work on faces a little bit more? It's up to you. We have, what's 3 o'clock? We have an hour.
What's that?
Well, next would be to do like a 3D model or something. Do you guys want to play with, what else do we have? Yeah, I guess let's move on to the 3D model. Why as well? Unless you guys are in the middle of face, I can definitely give you another 15 minutes to play with this if you want. 10 minutes to play with this. You guys want 10 minutes?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go get a drink of water. I'll be right back.
This thing is hot.
Oh wow, Sailor Moon. Oh man, that's the scary Donald Trump. So go back over to your texture. You just got to scale it in.
Yeah, I know. I just did this one.
Oh, you just switched over. Sorry. So then you got that in there, right?
No,
Yeah.
yeah, the little one because I the crocodile was
Oh, so don't drag it on the thing. Drag it as the texture of the face mask. You can just delete that. Yeah. Oh, you have two masks on top of each other.
Yeah, I do.
It's kind of cool looking.
It's only one by itself.
Yeah, with the Sully, I found that less is more. Like, just don't overdo it. If you try to get his eyes perfectly for the eyes, they just look worse and worse and worse. Yeah. If you just leave it alone and kind of get the mouth close, it's like as good as it's gonna get. You can't blink though. My eyes are kind of always open no matter what I do. So you can also change the alpha value of your mask so that you can see your face underneath it, which also can be a tool for like helping you align things. And sometimes you can also change the blend mode. So like right now it's on normal. I could change that to multiply. Now I look like it's my skin tone multiplied by the blue Sully. So I look like Oscar the Grouch, I guess. Color burn. There's all your like standard Photoshop style color blend modes. Oh wow. Now I look like somebody from a Dr. Seuss book or something.
Yeah.
Or you can just do hue, and then it's just whatever color that is, it colors your skin that color. All right. Should we move on? All right. So you can, if you want, we can make a new one. Or you could just turn this off by hitting the effects off here and then add a new one to it. And then you can just turn on what you want. Okay, so it's up to you either way. When we start adding, so you can see up here where it says project info 0.59 megabytes. That's how much memory this project currently uses. And if you push it to your phone, it can't be more than 4 megabytes. So, all right. Let's go ahead and add a 3D model. So the first thing we want to do is add new over here on objects and find head binding. Head binding. So we're going to bind this model to your head. And let's start with the Jason mask because it's the easiest one. So go to wherever you downloaded Jason mask. I don't think you need to drag the material in, just the .obj. Drag it into your resources and skip for now. Requires permission to download. What are you talking about? Okay. Grant access to home folder. Okay, there we go. All right. Once you got that, do you have it in your resources? Okay. Now you're going to want to open in resources. You're going to want to open this Jason mask hierarchy, and you're looking for the yellow Jason mask prefab. See where it says object prefab. And you want to drag that up on your head binding object so that it box selects it like this. And that'll add that prefab as a child of the head binding object. Okay, where is the head binding? Why don't I see it? I should see it in my camera view. Do you guys see anything? Do you guys not? You should see like a 3D head here. Mine, I don't for some reason. You don't either. I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to get rid of the head binding and I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to delete this. I'm saving this. I'm going to make a new project and add a head, add new head binding. And see, once I click on that, then I get this 3D head right here. That's what I should have seen, and I didn't for whatever reason. And now I'm going to drag in that JSON mask again. Okay, and then in the hierarchy for the JSON mask, I want the yellow JSON mask prefab. And I want to drag that up to the head binding so that it box selects it, and that'll create it as a child object of this head binding. Now, there it is. It's stuck. It's inside of the face occluder right now, and it's really, really tiny. So, and it's at the wrong rotation. So the first thing I want to do is on this JSON mask, I'm going to click on it, and here on rotation, let's add 90 degrees on the x-axis to make it facing the right way.
Is there a way to like zoom in?
Yeah.
With the control?
2 fingers swipe up and down. If you swipe into that face mask, you should be able to see the JSON face mask inside of it. It's just occluded right now by the face occluder. Yeah? You can also turn off the face occluder and you should be able to see it.
Oh, there we go.
And see, and you can even see it on the preview now. It's this tiny little JSON mask in the background, right? So the first thing we had to do is change the rotation on the JSON mask to 90 degrees on the x-axis. And now we definitely need to scale this up quite a bit. I'm going to start with like 4 on the x, 4 on the y, and 4 on the z. And that's not even big enough. Oh, that looks terrible. What happened there? Oh, I said 14 on the y. 4. There we go. It's still not big enough. So, and it's too far back. Let's go. I'm going to go ahead and move mine. So there's a move tool up here. You could just put in things in the position, but it's probably easier just to drag things around with your tools. So these green things in the center above the world view, you have scaling tools, selection tools, panning tools, move tool.
I put mine at 10.
And you can drag it forward so that, and you can move your camera around to the side, and you can kind of see where it is relative to the virtual face. And move it up, and then that's better, but it still needs to be bigger, so I'm going to go back and scale it a little bit more at like 9 or 10, Mark was saying. I think 9. Yeah, I think I either did 8 or 9 the last time I did this. I think it's got a little bit of an offset as well. And as soon as I scaled it, it changed where it was in space, so I have to move it back now. But you can just move it around so that it's centered on that virtual face, and then it should be centered on your face. Move it so that you can see your eyes through it, and now I have a JSON mask on. Is that working?
Yeah. It's just not colored.
Oh, yours don't have the colors? Mine doesn't. Oh, something's weird with mine. My red is behind oh, these red pieces must not have gotten moved. Somehow something got moved, and these other pieces didn't get moved along with it. So my red pieces are in a different position than my Then the mask itself. Let me see if I can fix that. I just have to go way back, I guess. There. Okay, so that's where they got out of whack. And I'm going to change the scale to 9 to 888. And they're still together, and you just need to make sure you have the right thing selected when you move it so that you're moving everything together instead of a piece of it. So I did this in Max MSP back in the day, and it was so hard. And this is so easy. It's like everything I did. What?
Create augmented reality.
Well, it was I was able to get somebody, this guy named Kyle McDonald, who's kind of a pioneer in this kind of face pose estimation stuff, created an app that you could run in the background, and it would give you orientation data of your face and also like where your eyes are and stuff, and it sent all that info through OSC. And I used that OSC in Max MSP to do to position 3D objects like this, and it took me weeks to get it all working correctly. And this, you can get the same thing basically in about 2 minutes, and it's just like. By the time I even presented that thing, it was part of a play, and when it took us like 8 months or something from when we started building that play till we actually presented it, and in the interim, Snapchat had come out, and so all this stuff that was like super impressive 8 months ago, people were like, "Ho hum." All right, so let's try a new one. Make sure you save here, because the skull will crash your thing if you do it wrong. So I'm calling this week 8 mask. Okay, and let's go ahead and make a new one, new project, and add the head binding again. Okay, and go ahead and turn off on this head binding, turn off the face occluder. So what the face occluder does is, like, if you have a sunglasses model, for example, and it's on your virtual head, you can't see the ear band through my face, right? So that they have a face occluder that's there that will make it so that you don't see the ear band unless you turn your head to the side. But what we're going to do here is we're going to replace my entire head with a skull. So we don't want a face occluder making us not be able to see parts of the skull, right? So we're going to turn the face occluder off. And let's go ahead and import that skull v1.obj into your resources. And where is it? Oh, it says it's loading. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't crash. All right, it didn't. And on this skull v1 prefab, go ahead and drag that up into the face occluder, not face occluder, the head binding. And then all of a sudden the things become white because this skull is ridiculously huge. So we just need to first thing we need to do is scale this way down. I think it's like 0.012, 0.012, 0.012, 0.012. Yeah. So here it is. This is with like a null material, so it's a little bit white. And I had problems where it would crash if you didn't replace the materials. So let's go ahead and make a material for this. We could do some really rough placement of this first because it's a little bit low right now. So make sure you have the whole skull V1 highlighted, not any of the child objects inside of it. And use the move tool and slide it up and change your camera position and slide it back so that it kind of lines up with where your head should be. Yeah, that's pretty close. And we're even going to make it so that the skull's mouth opens. Yeah. All right. So, but before we do that, it'll crash if we don't replace the textures. If we start doing things and we don't replace the textures, it's because it gave a new texture to every single part of this thing. It's called, like, each one has its own texture called texture 1, texture 2, texture 3, and it's just too many things for it to deal with. So we want them all to have the same textures. So let's create a texture over here in resources. You can right click and say add new, or you can click on the add new plus button and go to texture, material, sorry, not texture, material, and use diffuse. And it'll create a purple diffuse texture thing. You can rename that. Let's rename it bone. Okay. And over here on base color, just kind of drag this a little bit toward the yellow to give it kind of a cream bone color. Over here on base color, make it kind of a cream colored bone color. All right, and let's make another texture for the teeth. Sorry, material for the teeth, and you can do simple PBR, which has some reflectiveness to it, and you can just leave that white. Oh, and you can rename it teeth instead of simple PBR. Come on. Come on. There we go. Teeth. All right, go ahead and save it before it crashes. Week 8 skull. Okay, now open up your skull prefab and you'll see all these children, and they're all called design layer because I converted it in Vectorworks and it put everything as its own design layer, and it just named them all design layer. If you click on the cranium here, you can see which one gets highlighted in the script in the list over here. That's the one that you've clicked on in the scene here. So it'll highlight in your hierarchy, it'll highlight that. Go ahead and rename that cranium in your hierarchy so you always know which one that is. And go ahead on material here. Go ahead and change that to bone. And now you can see that it gave the cranium kind of a bone color. And now highlight the jaw in your scene view, and it'll highlight that in your hierarchy, and go ahead and double click that and rename it to jaw. Rename jaw and change its material to bone. Okay, and then you can select every other material. Every other object is a tooth. So you can do you can hold down Command and select multiple ones, or you can hold down Shift and select all of them, and then hold down Command and select the next one below jaw, and then hold down Shift and select down to cranium, and then hold down Command below cranium, and then hold down Shift and Command and select the rest of them. So now I have all of these selected. I can now go here on material and change that to teeth. And now I have these kind of gray teeth, right? Go ahead and save this before it crashes. All right. Now, the way I've done this in the past, but it's tended to make it crash, is to make all of the upper teeth be a child object of the cranium, and all of the lower teeth be a child object of the jaw, and then make another head binding attached to the jaw and drag the jaw in there, but it makes it crash every damn time. So, to get around that and achieve the same thing, go ahead and select the jaw and hold down Command and select each of the lower teeth. You can hold down Option and drag your mouse to look around. And just delete them. So we're just ended up with the upper cranium and the upper teeth. We're deleting the lower jaw and the lower teeth. Okay, so now we just have this upper cranium and upper teeth. You can do them one at a time if you want, if that's easier for you. Okay, now let's create a new head binding. So add new head binding. And by default, it's going to want to try to bind it to another person's head, to a second face in the scene. And you can see face index as 1. This one has a face index of 0. We want this also to have a face index of 0. So on this head binding 1, change the face index back to 0, and it should put it back on top of the other head binding. And you can rename this head binding. Let's call it jaw binding. And here under the jaw, now under this head binding in your inspector, it says attach to point head center. Change that to chin. And now you can see it's like this face occluder is all wacky. So turn off the face occluder on the jaw binding as well. We don't want it. Huh?
How'd you get to chin? Sorry.
So right here, I'm clicked on the jaw binding and attach to point chin. Okay? All right, now drag the skull from your resources into the jaw binding. So we just have 2 different versions of this. And rescale this back to 0.012. So everything went white because this skull is way too big. Change the scale to 0.012, 0.012, 0.012. And let's go ahead and delete the cranium. So you can select that in your design in the scene and hit delete. And now I have the upper teeth and the lower jaw and the lower teeth. I want to delete all of the upper teeth as well. So I can select and command select each of the teeth. That's probably the easiest way because they're kind of randomized in the hierarchy. Figure out which one's which. So it's easier just to select them out of your 3D scene view, one at a time with holding down the command key. So now I have all the upper teeth selected. I can right click in the hierarchy and go to delete. And now I should have just the lower jaw and the lower teeth left over. But it's kind of at a different position. So let's go ahead and change the position on this. So you can also drag a box around things in your 3D view. So I'm going to drag a box around the lower jaw and all of the teeth, and that should select everything. And I can then use the move tool and move it back. Whoops. Let's try that again. Move tool to move it. Come on. What's wrong? Move tool to move it back. There we go. And up. And go ahead and try and re-articulate it to the skull. And you can use make the front lower teeth kind of just touch the front upper teeth, and then you'll know it's in the right position. Okay, and now I need to go ahead and change the texture on this. So I'm going to click on the jaw, and on material here, I'm going to click that and change back to bone. And then I'm going to select let's see. I'm going to go ahead and label my jaw in my hierarchy. So I selected the jaw over here, and it puts it, it's this design layer here, and I can rename that jaw. That way I know which one's jaw, and now I can select everything else and select it to teeth and change the texture to teeth. How are we doing? Are you guys with me? Yeah, and so now you have a skeleton head, and it moves its jaw with your mouth. So material, teeth. There we go. Ah! Ha 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 ha. So this is cool, but it can definitely be cooler. So let me show you how we can make this way cooler. Let's start with some like spooky lighting. So we have these 3D models are lit by a virtual light above. If you click on that light, you can click on the light in the hierarchy. You can change its like light color and intensity. Let's go ahead and change the color of that to something spookier. Like I like green, but you can do whatever you think is kind of a scary color and bump up the intensity a little bit, and it should make your skull kind of glow in that color. Are you crashing? What's going on? Oh, you have to hit OK on the color before you can change the intensity. There we go. And go ahead and save. I forgot. Save before it crashes. All right. So now I have this kind of glowing green skull. Let's add a light. So add new light. Where is it? Light. Okay. And it made it as a child of my other light. I don't want that. I just want it as a general light. And I'm going to rename this light. I'm going to call it eye light. If it made it as a child object of your other light, just drag it out into your lighting and so that it's not a child of your directional light. Now that you have that eye light highlighted, highlight, change. Oh no, I guess it did it by default. Make sure that the light type is point, and change the color to like a red or an orange or something like a fire color. And bump up the intensity and find that light. I guess it's above your skull. You can drag it down and kind of put it inside of his eyes. But actually, we want it to move with the head, right? So you want it to be a child of that first head binding. So drag it from your lighting to be a child of your first, not the jaw, but your head, the first head binding. That way it moves with your head. And now move it so that it's inside of the skull's eye. So I have it in front of his eye. I'm going to move it inside the eye. And then you can see it makes his eyes glow red. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this light now and put one inside the other light, inside the other eye. So now I have these red lights inside the eye sockets. Okay, now let's make some actual eyes for this thing. We're just going to create some primitives in the editor here. So in resources, actually we can just do it in objects. Objects, add new. And find down at the bottom, not the bottom, about halfway down, there's a thing called sphere. Click on that and it'll create a sphere mesh. And I'm going to rename this sphere mesh eye. And you could leave it like this, or resize it obviously to fit, but it would be like a cue ball. And I want mine to be like a glowing orb. So I don't want mine to react to lighting. I want it to look like it's emitting lighting. So in the material down here, actually I want to create a new material in my resources. So make a new material called unlit. And go ahead and click on put the unlit into your inspector. Change its base color to, I think like an orange color is pretty nice. Maybe a red, either red or an orange. And also there's a thing down here that this really sells it as being like fire. There is rim highlight. If you click on that and you change that color to like yellow, it makes it really, really good. What's fizzle? I don't know. All right. So now on your eye, go ahead and choose that, change the material to that unlit that you just created. And now he has this like glowing hot coal for an eye, and we just need to.
Can you pause for a second?
Yeah.
How did you get the eye into the scene?
I just said add new, and I added a sphere.
Okay, and is it?
Not in the beginning in my skull, but not in
Oh, okay.
it's not tracking to my face. Oh,
So then drag it into your head binding.
I gotta put on my head binding. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Mine has a weird rotation. I'm going to clear out the rotation on it. There we go.
And how did you apply unlit to the sphere?
So in the sphere, there's material, and choose your unlit material that you created. And now I'm going to scale it down so that it fits inside the eye socket. So what is that, 0.4? 0.35 maybe, 0.4? Yeah, 0.35 I like. And then kind of move it to some place that makes sense. Ooh, that's spooky. All right, now that I got that eye working, I can just duplicate it and just drag it over to be in the other eye socket. Yeah. So now I have like two glowing coals for eyes. So that's really cool. There's one other thing we can do on this to really like make this into a full experience. And that is to like add a background. So when you add a background, I could easily add an image to this and all you would see was the skull and it would cover up the camera. But what we really want to see is my shoulders and my arms and my head. We don't really need to see the head because we're covering it with this skull. But ideally, if you're doing something else like a face mask or something, you'd want to see your head too. So basically, it wants to separate the foreground element from the background. And that's called segmentation. And it's a difficult thing to do in computer vision because you have to understand what a human shape is and figure out what it is and where it is to remove the background. But this program does it pretty well. The iPhone does it even better if you're using that iPhone XS and XR in ARKit 3.0, which I wished we could get to in this class, but I don't think it's going to happen at this point. And it can do segmentation as well, but this does it on any device, and it does it fairly well. The one caveat I found is that when it'll see your arms when they're like this, but if you go like this and put them behind your head, they'll just disappear. So in order to do this, first of all, we need a second camera that looks at just this background. So add another camera. Add camera. Where is it? Yeah, it will because it just renders whatever that camera can see. And that camera is in a different position, so it sees that skull. And what is going on? Oh boy. I'm going to delete this camera really quick. Oh, it made it as a child object of my eye for some reason. I'm going to make sure it's not a child object of anything. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So yeah, you have a second skull. Go ahead and save your project before it crashes. All right. So yeah, it's created a second skull because it renders what this camera sees. It renders what the first camera sees first, and then it renders what the second camera sees on top of that second. So if they both see the same object, you get two versions of the same object. If this camera is closer, it's going to make that skull look bigger. If the camera is farther away, it'll make that skull look smaller. Right? You could create an effect that's like a hall of mirrors that sees your face over and over and again just by adding a bunch of cameras. Right? So we want to actually change this camera type over here where it says camera type perspective. Change that to orthographic. And then it will be like super close. And you'll see that it's because this first camera has a frustum that gets bigger and bigger as it goes back in the Z-scale. This has a set size, which is the aspect ratio of this portrait of the portrait mode on a phone, and it doesn't get any bigger from infinity. We want to move this camera over so that it doesn't see anything in the scene. I like to move it to something, I like to move it to like -200. So it's way over to the side, out of the way of the other frustum, but it's at an even value that I can use, that I can easily move things to if I want. I'm like, okay, all I need to do is move this over to 200, and then it will be in the view of this other camera, right? Now we need to add an image for this camera to see as the background. So you downloaded, hopefully, this spooky graveyard. Add that to your resources, first of all. And then, can you just drag it onto your objects? And no, I don't think it'll let you. Can I drag it into the scene? I can drag it into the scene, but it doesn't do anything. It creates this like scene object, and that doesn't do anything, right? So really what we need to do is, let me get rid of this scene object thing because it doesn't do anything. I'm going to delete that. We're going to create we have to, just like in Unity, we have to have this is a texture. The texture has to create a material, and the material needs to be applied to a mesh, a quad, just like we did in Unity. So let's create a quad. I think they just call it a plane. Plane, yeah. And by default, they put it sideways, and so you don't even know it's there because it has no x dimension. I mean, it has no y dimension. So go ahead and rotate the plane so that it's at 0, 0, 0 instead of -90. And now there's a plane that's just lit by the light, and it's sticking in the middle of my skull. I want to move this over to 200, or was it -200? -200. And now it's in front of the camera, and so I'm not seeing anything, right? You should occlude because it renders this camera second, and this is all this camera sees, I don't see the skull anymore. Yeah? Did you do 200 or positive? Did you do positive 200 or -200? Can you see your plane? Can you see your plane in your scene view?
I see my phone, but it's not popping up on the screen.
Okay. Then is your camera right at 200? Like, see where it is in relationship to the camera's frustum.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, change the rotation from -90 to 0, 0, 0. Okay?
It's not full. It's not
All right, and you moved it over to -200 with the camera? Okay, great. So we need to, on this camera, if you click on the camera, the background camera, what is it? This camera, the camera that we have set to orthographic. Let's go ahead and rename this camera so that we don't get them confused anymore. Call this one segmentation camera. or you can call it background camera. Okay, so I got the segmentation camera. And in the inspector here, you see mask texture, none. That's where we're going to plug in this thing that does the segmentation for us. And it's going to create a mask that masks out the human form and shows this plane behind us. So let's create that. So in your resources, add new, and scroll down to where it says, scroll up to where it says segmentation texture, and then change that to portrait background. Portrait background. And if you click on that, you can see the red areas are going to be shown and the black areas are going to be masked. And so it masks out whatever it detects as a human head and human shoulders. So now on your segmentation camera, select the mask texture as your portrait background segmentation. And now you can see yourself through this, but it's kind of like, it's kind of funky. Like you can see it's kind of cutting the edges off because it is not masking, it's masking this, it's not masking the skull, it's only masking my face. So we really just need to change it so that the skull, the camera that sees the skull is rendered second so that it'll always be on top. So over here in your objects, there's 3 modes up here: default mode, layers mode, and render order mode. Change to render order mode. And you see the camera says render, if you click on camera, it says render order 0, and segmentation camera is render order 1. Change the render order on the segment, on the camera, the first camera that we did, to 0. So I guess click, sorry, change it to, did I do it already? No. Change it, you want it to be 1. You want this, no, you want segmentation camera to be 0. You drag it, what do I do?
Drag the box.
This to 0, to,
No. So go to like the orange camera they have icon.
uh-huh,
No.
over here, where? Uh-huh. Oh, drag the order of it, of course, duh. Okay, so, wait, where do I do that? Oh, here in render order, yes, okay. So yeah, I just need to change the order of this so segmentation camera is underneath, and now the skull is always on top, and it's culling out the background, right?
Yeah, it's just struggling with my hair. But.
Yeah, it will, but if you make your skull big enough so it doesn't see your hair, then it won't be an issue, right? Or you could change your occluder to be a portrait, you know, where it says portrait background segmentation. You could change the type from portrait background to portrait shoulder and invert it. And invert the mask, and that should cut off your head completely and just leave your shoulders. Yeah? Yeah, actually I kind of like that. I'm going to leave mine that way too. What?
I missed the step where you added the
So it's down here in resources. You say add new, and you scroll up, and segmentation texture, and then portrait, either portrait background or portrait shoulder, and invert it on portrait shoulder.
Okay.
And that'll just leave your shoulders and cut off your head. Okay? And now we just need to actually add that spooky graveyard. We need to create the texture with that spooky graveyard, right? So let's create a new texture. New material. This is going to be an unlit material because we don't want it to apply lighting to it. And I'm going to rename this from unlit to, I'm going to name it as background or just BG. And now, let's see, texture, where it says texture white. Change that to your spooky graveyard. And now that material is set up for spooky graveyard. Now I just need to go to that quad or the plane and change the material from default to the background material that I created. And there it is. And now I can resize this plane to see more of this background.
This is very funny.
It won't hit my hood, will it? No. So, but yeah, did you notice like when you lift your arms up, they just disappear though. So we're almost at time. That's basically all I wanted to show you guys today. We got through more than I thought we would, actually. I didn't think we'd actually get to this today. How's it working? Is anybody stuck? Is anybody stumped? You want me to go around and look at things? What's your question?
You just press pair to your device?
Oh yeah, let's push it. Yeah, push it to your device. So click on pair to your device and open up Snapchat on your phone. And open your, you put it, open up Snapchat, turn the camera around, and put the code in the view of the camera, and then tap and hold on the code in the camera's view for a few seconds. And it should pair it. Oh, I'm on the wrong device. I was going to log in on this device. I guess I can only be logged into one device at a time. All right, let me get my screen recording going. File, new movie recording. All right, so you turn your camera around, and then you click on pair to your device, and then you click and hold on the thing and say pair. And did it not work? Pair. Swipe to try another note. Swipe to open it. Why, or is it not working? Okay, oh, it's public. Okay, then you can click on push lens. Once you get it paired, then you can click push lens to device. And it should pop up with a pop-up on your Snapchat that asks if you want to see the lens once it's done sending. So I'm waiting for mine. Mine's still downloading. There we go. Wait, why didn't it work? Oh, there it is. And turn it around. There we go. Ha ha!
How do you like, where do you scan the...
So open up Snapchat and turn the camera around so it's not looking at you. Then when you click on pair to your device, it creates that QR code with the ghost. Put that in the view of your camera and then tap on it on your phone and hold. Click and hold on that QR code on your phone for a couple seconds. And on Google Pixel, it takes like 3 or 4 seconds. On iOS, it only takes like 1 second. And you can see it runs like way smoother on your phone than it does on the preview on your computer. Happy Halloween! Okay, for the 4th time. Here we go.
Sorry.
That's all right. So go ahead and say, oh, I've already paired mine. So So it doesn't matter. Just go open up Snapchat so that you see a camera view. Turn the camera around so it's not looking at your face.
Yeah.
Point it at the QR.
Yeah.
Now tap on the QR with your finger on your device. And hold.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, sorry.
Got it.
And hold for about a second or so. And then once you get that, then you're in SnapLens Studio, it'll change to a green thing that will say push lens to device. And you can push it to your device, and then it will send it to your phone, and when it's ready, it'll pop up on the app on your phone.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, this is such an easy program. Like I didn't do any tutorials for this. I just like played around, and you can learn how to do a whole bunch of stuff just by tinkering, you know, or just by taking an example and editing it.
And use the same logic by really simple.
Yeah, yeah, it's very simple. And
Oh,
you know,
works so well.
Donovan told me at the beginning of this class, like he recommended we teach this, and because it's like you get results like that, and you can get people really excited about the program. And then Peter's like, yeah, but then you can only ever use it in Snapchat. It doesn't have that much like usability, right? People will get you. I could imagine you guys getting sick of just doing, you know, 3D heads and silly hats every week.
I mean, I'm sure I would have a fun time.
Now, it would be great as if you could have a filter that recognized sunglasses, so that if you put on a pair of sunglasses, it would put the sunglasses on the skull. I could put virtual sunglasses on the skull. That would be easy enough.
I remember when Snapchat first came out, and they had that sort of feature where you could like take photos that were like in your library and mesh them over your own face.
Yeah,
Like my friends got like to a really absurdist level of humor.
yeah, yeah.
Like the layering of that.
Yeah, it's definitely when you start playing around with those. Whenever you start playing around with those like funhouse mirror type things, people inevitably get sillier and sillier. Like,
Seemed like abstract art. Ridiculous.
all right, it is 3:50, so I'm gonna stop here, and I want everybody to have a happy and safe Halloween. Please come back next week, not still hungover from tomorrow.